active online modules. And as part of our beginnings, we are offering this speaker series, which you are attending tonight. The goal of the series is to begin a conversation that bridges the theoretical, empirical, and philosophical, along with our lived experiences, specifically on topics of spirituality as well as consciousness. So we've already had speakers from a variety of practices and beliefs, and we will continue to be inviting guests to offer our listeners a range of opinions to promote an individual experience for a unique interface with the divine. And we have been so thankful to partner with Richmond Ions, which focuses on the science of spirituality. And this series is a complementary counterpoint to focus on the practice of said spirituality. We're obviously here on Zoom tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the first Wednesday of every month, we will continue to meet for this series on Zoom at 7 p.m. Eastern. You've heard us say it a couple of times before, but we do rely on donations to operate. A recommended love gift of $10 for attending tonight will be graciously welcomed, and the link will continue to be on the slide now and later, as well as in the chat. So now I'm so excited to introduce our two speakers tonight. First, we have Christy Gray. She's a beloved healer, teacher, and convener of seekers, a very wise woman. She holds space in circles with drums, divining, and vision, with nature, and most of all, with good humor, great humility, and lots of love. And Kim Naugle Long is a Holy Fire Reiki Master and teacher, a sound therapy practitioner, and spiritual counselor. Her passion is helping clients to reconnect to their powerful energy flow and help them to let go of resisting emotions, embrace feeling the current of flow of energy, and be a container for a grounded and empowered sense of self. And tonight they're joining us from Athens, Georgia, for an informal discussion about the nature of their diverse spiritual practices and to share insights and stories from their work and give us some tips and tricks for our own practice that will enrich and expand our sense of existence as spiritual beings. So I will invite you at any time to throw some questions into the chat. We will give the floor over to the speakers, and then I'll moderate our question and answer time after they are done. So Kim and Christy, thank you again for being here, and I will turn it over to you to begin our practice.
So thanks, Tina. Well, one little modification is Christy is not likely to join us tonight because of her health. So, but she is going to be here in video. That seems like it ought to be a Latin term. We have some lovely recordings of Christy, and she is, of course, here with us in spirit. For those of you who know Christy, know that she's here, and she said that she would try to dial in and would definitely watch the video afterwards if she can't make it. So I'll be holding space and conversation with Kim, who is my teacher as well. I feel really spoiled to have such two amazing teachers, even though we live 500 miles away currently. So we're going to turn it over to Kim to start the meditation.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Susanna. I'm grateful to be here. So I just wanted to talk about really the most important step with any kind of practice and moving into any kind of meditation is to allow yourself to shift into a place that's receptive and curious. And so the pretty much across the board universal way to do that is to take a nice deep breath in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a moment, and it's very helpful if you're not super skilled in meditation or practicing breath work, is to, I like to say, put one hand over the heart, like I do the high heart, but you can also do the actual physical heart. But you have one hand here and then one hand below the belly button over the lower tummy. And you're just trying to sensitize those areas, bring your awareness into that area of the body, and breathe in through the nose while you have your hands resting there, and you're just connecting with the feeling of your body. So we're just going to all take a nice deep breath in through the nose, fill to the lower lungs, and then slowly exhale out the mouth. And then again, another deep breath in, and just see that air that you're breathing in all the way down to the lower lungs, and try to connect with that hand that's below the belly button. And then a nice slow exhale out the mouth. You're just allowing your awareness to drop down into your center. One more deep breath in. And slowly exhale. And so for this meditation, what I want everyone to do is to really keep your eyes closed and visualize. You're going to allow this beautiful golden divine energy, to drop in like honey. So you're going to imagine almost like you're an empty honey bear getting filled up, those little squeezy honey bear dispensers. You're going to allow yourself to slowly fill with this divine golden energy honey, and you want it to move down in through the top of your head, and it's going to drop all the way down in. And if it's hard for you to imagine, it's helpful to put your fingers on the top of your head and slowly pull down like you're opening a little pathway. It just helps you to sensitize opening. So if you put your fingers right on the crown, kind of like this, and then you just slowly comb, and you're just allowing that you're opening to receive this beautiful divine golden honey. Good. So now that you've got that area nice and open, take another deep breath in and just receive this beautiful, thick, golden honey energy, and let it drop down in through the top of your head. And it's going to start to fill slowly down. You want it to kind of go down through the spine of your body, and just allow this energy to slowly drip down. Breathe in, allowing this honey energy to slowly drop down, lower through the body, all the way down to the very bottom of the hips. Just keep breathing in and allowing this honey energy to drip all the way down, 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 down the spine, down the lower back, and then down to the hips. And here you're going to allow it to start filling just this beautiful honey energy, just like filling up the bottom of a little container, just like this beautiful divine golden light syrup. Just receive, keep allowing it to just slowly filling. As it fills through the hips, just allow for it to move all the way through, expanding out to each hip with this warm, golden honey energy. So let it fill all the way up to your belly button. And exhale and let everything release off down into the earth. Allow that golden light just to keep filling above the belly button, all the way through your center. Allow it to fill, just receive, and allow this energy to move through, and it's just filling you up, just like a little honey bear, one of those little honey bear dispensers. Let it fill you up. Allow it to move through the whole center of your body, through that belly. Just really pictured in your mind's eye, this beautiful, thick, syrupy, honey, golden energy filling you up. All the way up through, coming up over your belly, allowing it to coat all the cells in your body and allow it to fill you all the way up. Just allow. Breathe in and picture this just filling you all the way up to your chest. Allow this feeling of just beautiful, golden, warm energy, this fullness to coat up that spine. Really allow it to move through and over every part of your body. If you need to, take another deep breath in and shift out of resistance, and then exhale that out of the body. And then shift into flow. And allow that honey to move all the way up through your chest, up over your sternum. Allow it to kind of fill up over your upper back, between the shoulder blades. Kind of roll your shoulders if you need to let any stress and tension fall off. The honey is just pushing it out. It's so gentle and soft and thick and viscous. Just allow it. Roll the shoulders as you breathe in. Shoulder circles. And let it just keep filling all the way up through your neck. And as this energy moves up through your neck, it's just pushing out any tension and holding. It's bringing your awareness to areas of stuckness. And just allow that to kind of move off of the body as this honey energy just fills all the way up over the jawline. Letting all heaviness just kind of push off and roll down into the earth. And that beautiful golden honey energy comes over the jaw, up around the neck and behind the ears to the base of the skull. Just let it fill all the way up. If you need to stretch your neck, stretch your neck. Let that honey get in there, in between the vertebra in your neck. Yeah, just allow it to move all the way through and just soften and create a nice little cushiony area in between each of the vertebrae and the discs. And then allow it to sort of merge with each cell of the body and just create a nice flow, a reconnect. Allow it to move all the way up to the base of the skull and come all the way up, and allow it to move up over your sinuses and just coat all the way up behind the ears. And you're going to allow this to move all the way up over your eyes. And then it starts to move over through the back of your head and the brain. Let the whole brain start to fill with this beautiful golden energy over your temples, temporal lobe, your frontal lobe. Let it move all the way up over. And this golden energy has filled every part of your torso and head. And we're going to allow the excess to start to flow down the arms and the shoulders. You might want to roll your shoulders again if that's helpful to get anything stuckness out. Allow it to move down your shoulders, down your arms, over your elbows. Allow it to move down through the forearms. And it's just moving out any holding and stuckness. Just allow this golden energy to just move in, pushing out holding patterns, tightness, any kind of stuck, achy feeling. Just let this golden energy just coat, soothe, soften, and push out any of those old patterns. Allow it to drip down over your wrists, through the wrists, through all the little ligaments and bones, and then drip down, fill your fingers. And then once your hands are totally full, it's okay if you want to move your fingers to really work that honey energy in. And then when the fingers feel full, let it drip out of the tips of each of the fingers. There's little finger chakras. So just let it drip honey out of your fingers, and it carries out any stuck energies or holding patterns. Yeah. Kind of tune in. Notice if there's anywhere in your arms, your shoulders, your neck that's still holding, and you may want to sweep through and kind of like help make sure everything's even and flowing. We're just looking for like a nice connection with this beautiful honey mixed through everything. So you're looking for consistent flow, nice gooey honey viscous flow. And then we're going to tune in to our hips and just let it drip down the thighs, through the center, down over the knees. You might want to wiggle your toes and let it drip all the way through the knees, coating all the joints and cartilage and tendons and ligaments, and drop down the legs, the calves and the shins. Let it drip down the muscles, and then all the way over your ankles. And then let it start to fill up all the way through your feet and toes. And once there's not anything left that's not coated in this beautiful divine golden energy, let the excess drip out of those toes into the earth. So it'll just carry off any holding energy, any stuckness. And that beautiful divine golden honey energy is reconnecting all the cells, all the organs, all the systems in the body. So they're now in this perfect connection, reharmonized. All the pathways are cleared and flowing. Hormones are going where they need to go. Proteins are going where they need to go. And all the systems are at optimum. And just allow. And when you feel ready, just bring your awareness back to your eyes, and then we'll tune back in.
Gosh, thanks, Kim. Kim, that was, I think, worth the price of admission. But we have a lot of great content to cover as well, and Q&A. So thank you for that beautiful start to the practice series session tonight. I love that we start with a meditation each time, because that is such a fundamental spiritual practice, and that was a particularly sweet one, if you don't mind the pun. So Kim and I discussed how to do this tonight, given Christy won't be here. We have some video snippets lined up, but we thought we'd kind of focus on a few themes, and with Kim talking about her own spiritual practice philosophy, and then we can kind of move into the topics. Does that still feel like the right approach, Kim?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess to just kind of give a little brief overview, I think we had talked about just with spiritual practice, how I incorporate it into my life. And it's just over the years of practice, I've been practicing for about 20 years. I've moved into the space of realizing that it's the moment to moment that matters, not just spending 5 minutes a day meditating or 10 minutes a day meditating. But it is helpful to start the day focusing in the right way and moving into a space of gratitude and really choosing how to focus my awareness to get started in the day. But I try to have just basically moment to moment thinking about different ways to make life more playful and fun, and tuning in to just the the beauty of everything and how to harmonize with life. And so one time that really sticks out in my mind is like driving. I had a complete epiphany one day, like I'm working on this practice and driving to work, but in the drive, it can feel frustrating and like a lot of conflict and people cutting you off. And so I shifted into a different way of instead just wrapping my car in gold light, like Christy had taught me, and then moving into a space of kind of blessing people as I go. So I would imagine rather moving through in a different way. So seeing my car kind of a light vehicle and blessing people as I went. And this kind of shifted things for me. And then I started to look at different ways I could move through grocery shopping, all the regular activities, and really bringing a spiritual practice of focus in it, where I'm looking at it more as shifting into a way of moving, just an awareness and love with the world and great gratitude for the beauty that's there. It's sometimes challenging to find the beauty when you're moving through the Walmart, but that's one of the things that Christy always taught was you get focused, you get really clear about your intention, and then you move through in a way that is just focused and not in opposition to the environment, but rather finding the beauty in the little things. So it really shifted how I could move through life in a different way. Yeah.
Being more conscious as you go through life at a moment to moment basis. So it's sort of like the equivalent of not being the Easter Sunday churchgoer, right? Or just the weekly Sunday churchgoer, but making your spiritual practice a continual lived experience.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
Which is really challenging to do with two kids, you know, like, and especially a teenager and a 10-year-old who's going on 25. But it's like it shifts things to moving into life from a perspective of play. And of course, curiosity. Like it's so easy to fall into a place of worrying about my kids. But it's such a waste of my energy. And I realized it's an indicator that I need to pause and breathe and get centered and shift that worry, that wasteful energy, that's a looping pattern, into a prayer or just a love offering for them to have the best day possible and have the best outcome, and holding space, putting my energy into envisioning the best possible experience for them, the best possible lesson in learning, and shifting the energies that way. So it's really helped to elevate my moment to moment and bring in and lean into trust a lot more, and really focus a little bit more on the beauty and the bigger picture as I move through some really challenging real life situations, rather than just having a set moment where I do maybe Reiki on myself, or having a set moment where I'm moving through the world in a way that's more elevated. So I'm not inviting conflict, but I'm rather seeking harmony, and I'm seeking joy, and I'm seeking play. Like that's the most important thing, is to make it a fun, playful experience. And so that's been really the best lessons that I definitely learned from Christy.
And when you seek it, you'll tend to find it as opposed to stumbling upon it, right? You just increase the odds of you experiencing it. And it is so easy in our lives, especially with kids or the chaos of the world. Like it's so easy to get pulled out of that from fear or something else, right? I think Christy has a really sweet little video on this topic. Is this a good time to explore what pulls us out of those moments, Chris?
Absolutely. Yeah. And fear shows up in so many ways. Like, yeah.
Okay, so this is a short video. I think it's like 3 to 5 minutes. I don't remember. Oh, it's 5 minutes. And this is our beloved Christy Gray. Oh gosh, please don't tell me you're not going to play. Oh. All right, I'm going to reload it.
Yeah. While you're doing, it's working. There it is.
Was told to me by a woman who's a shaman, the only shaman I ever met, really. Her name was Ross. And a friend of mine said, I want you to meet her. She's really an interesting person. So I went to the Bluebird and waited for them for breakfast. And around the corner came a woman with a head of a wolf. And I was like, I think that's Ross. And we sat down and it was her. And so we sat down and we talked a bit and we got to know each other. And so she ended up staying at my house sometimes when she would come through town. And one night we were talking. Really, it was amazing when she was in the house. The energy, it was at the Grove. The energy was so changed. There was intensity to everything we did. It was even food. It was in conversation, everything. It was beautiful to be with her. She even came to lodge one night and rattled for everyone. And everyone was just mesmerized. They had no idea who she was. So at the same time that she was visiting, I said to her one night, I said, Ross, what were you before you were a shaman? She said, I was a pediatric psychiatrist. And I said, oh my goodness. And I said, I have this physical condition that's going on with me. And I wondered if you could give me some insight into that. She said, sure. And so it was a Bartholin gland had become inflamed at the opening of the vagina, at the end of the vulva. And it was so incredibly painful. And it came back again and again and again. So I told her this. And she said, well, I can tell you physiologically what it was. But she said, that's really not what's going on. She said, it's sexual guilt. And of course, I was raised in the South by Sarah and Bill Gray. And of course, it would be sexual guilt because they were my parents and they just guilted everything about us, especially sex. So I said to her, so how do I get rid of that? And she said, well, you don't get rid of it. Why do you keep running from it? And she said, what you do is you sit down across from it and you say to the guilt, beloved teacher, here you are again. I surrender. Teach me what you have to teach me. And then you can go. You can become some other energy. Just its only energy is all it is. Liz, it was amazing. I did that. And the next day, I went to this ceremony that these two friends of mine were doing. They said to me, on the way to the fire, you'll find, they built a huge fire. They said, on the way to the fire, look on the earth for something that will be, you want to release. You'll see it. It'll be clear. And I found a bumblebee that was dead. And I realized that was my father, who did sting me a bit when I was a child and into adulthood. And then I found a wasp nest that had dried up. There was no fertility in it. There were babies in it, but they had died and it was all dry and dead. And I knew that was my mother. And so I took those two things to the fire and I asked for that sexual guilt to be released. And so I threw them in. And that night I came up from the ceremony and there was a message on my answering machine from my mother. And she said, Chris, I'm coming to see you next week. I was like, gosh, here it is right in my face. And so she did. She came to see me. And I told her all those things. It was really good, really, really good for us to talk about those things with each other. And I swear ever since then, I'll stumble into a bit hornet's nest every now and then emotionally or whatever. But Ross taught me, in a way, the early creed of the lodge. And that is, whenever you're afraid, choose curiosity. Be curious. Don't be afraid of it. Call it beloved. I went to the dentist soon after that and had to have a cap replaced, which is just hell financially. And it took like 3 sessions with the dentist, or 4 maybe. And I thought that was so strange. But then I realized that he didn't want to hurry it. And so the last day when he put the cap in my mouth, he said, I'm going to miss you so much, because we talk about everything. And he said, can I come out to your house, bring a 6-pack of beer, and we'll just go down the creek and visit? And I said, of course, I'd love that. And going home that afternoon, I realized that once again, the beautiful goddess had put on the cape of something that was scaring me. And I'd forgotten to say, beloved, I see you. And I saw it so clearly that visit to the dentist and all the money it cost and any pain that happened was really just her dressed up to get my attention, to move deeper into love. Gosh, it's been really helpful to me just thinking about this right now. All the things that we are given are really just love. Just spirit trying to make us a little better.
Isn't that genius? And those of you who don't know Christy, now you know why we just adore her. So insightful, and every time we come out of being in love and being present, like there's a lesson for us to remember to embrace what's challenging and uncomfortable and painful and scary. Yeah, she's taught us a lot. Kim, do you want to add anything to what is such an eloquent narrative?
Yeah, I mean, it's so beautiful. I mean, the power of intention and visualizing cannot be expressed enough. And it's like prioritizing, taking time with yourself to be kind and loving is like, I mean, it's everything, right? Like, it's, yeah, it really is. And it's like, it's just so beautiful to be, I think the thing that's so powerful in sharing space with Christy is that she has that incredible ability to be so, just so vulnerable and so loving and so honest
And humble, so
and
humble.
And I'm thinking about all the different times that I've like forgotten and been just kind of a bit mean to myself, or, unintentionally, of course, the ones that are closest is family. So like yelling at my kids or my husband. And it's been really helpful to shift in those moments and realize and take a break. Yeah. And just to notice, hey, I am sorry, I'm hurting. I'm going to go sort that out and see what's going on. But like the key isn't to be perfect. The key is just every time that you F up, you own it. And you just apologize and say, hey, I'm going to try to remember quicker next time. I'm going to do better. And it's not your fault that I was in a bad mood today. I was hurting and wasn't tending to myself. And it gives it's so helpful. Yeah. Just so many different ways of moving through that and shifting out of that space of hurting and recognizing it and moving into kindness. And like, that's it. That's the key. We have to learn how to love ourselves better so we can offer that better part of ourselves to our lovers. It's like, it's the most important thing. Yeah.
Well, it calls to mind something I've been studying related to the gene keys, and I know Judy Keating's on the line, but Richard Rudd just talks about relationships as a mirror. And it's really not just relationships, but how we are in relationship with everything is a mirror. And anytime I'm feeling frustrated or angry or want to blame somebody, or, you name it, any uncomfortable emotion, it's some type of fear at work, and an opportunity to lean into it, embrace it, love it, learn from it, call it teacher, say thank you for bringing this lesson. And so much can come of it as a result, and so much wisdom and a gift. We can find our divinity within over and over, return to love and divinity when we can consciously put aside our fear. Is this a good time to show the next video about connecting with our divinity?
Yeah.
Okay. Hope this video works right away. This came from Engaging Spirituality webinar we did with the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. And I a little embarrassed to notice I'm wearing the same outfit probably, but it's good to see who was there last time and see many of you back again.
I mean, I suppose if you can name it, then you've sort of learned it, but it doesn't mean you necessarily understand it or have perfected it. So do you?
Let me move it back just a bit.
Is what you need to learn on your awareness, like what's left for you to learn?
Maybe if everybody would turn off their video, that might help it buffer.
And we've learned it. Is there something remaining for you? I mean, I suppose if you can name it, then you've sort of learned it, but it doesn't mean you necessarily understand it or have perfected it. So do you, is what you need to learn on your awareness, like what's left for you to learn? And what would you want everybody to know? Like what would be the deep wisdom or insight from your life that you would want everybody to know?
Well, I think on my tombstone, which I probably won't have one because I'll get my ashes spread all over the place, I would say this. On one side of the tombstone, I would have written, listen, period.
Nice.
Just listen.
Uh-huh.
And then the other side, I would say, whenever you're afraid, choose curiosity.
Nice.
I think those would be the two things I would say to people. And if, fear's a good thing for us, a great teacher. Curiosity expands that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And the listen part, I think so oftentimes when we pray, we just, now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, blah, 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 blah. And probably Spirit standing there saying, they're doing it again. I cannot believe it every night. So I think that what I try to teach my apprentices and friends too, and they have taught me, believe me, they have taught me this, is to listen. And there's a lot of information available, but we don't allow ourselves the time to listen behind it. Like the way I learned it is in that book, Meet and Message Down Under. Marla Morgan was asked by the real people, they said, how do you pray? And she said, well, I talk to God and ask God for things. And she said, how do you pray? And they said, we listen. And so just that day happened to be George Bush's birthday, and we're supposed to pray for him. He was not my favorite person. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do this anyway. So I went outside and I said to Spirit, I said, this is how I pray usually. I said, what's the deal with George Bush? Oh, what beauty I was taught about that soul we call George Bush. I love him now. I don't like his politics or some of his ideas, but I love his so much. And so I realized that I wasn't really listening a lot to what was going on around me. And so now I'm much more open to listening. I don't hear a lot, but what I hear is profound and expanding. So I think that's what I would say to people is listen. It's right there.
And just tying back to this thing about dying and the fear, I wonder if part of that opportunity, and Tim and I have talked about this multiple times, the opportunity of facing loss and death is, when you get into an acceptance, then that fear goes away, and then you can be curious and listen more.
Yeah. And I think also too is that when we do die, like I'll be skipping rope on the other side, hanging out with my dogs and kitties that have gone over, and I'll probably be walking along a beach in Scotland somewhere. You all will be crying, which is said to be funny. You'll also be going through my stuff because all of you are in my will. But also, I think the mourning of death is for the living. Ram Dass says death is absolutely safe. And it's really, somebody else said, I think it was Iris DeMint wrote that song about, it's just a poor old slop left behind that are grieving. We're left with an empty shell. But the person who's crossed over, they're great. They're fine. So I think I see it like that. I'm sorry when people die, and I don't ever think we die before our time. I think we die when we've learned everything we're supposed to learn, and we just slip through, and nothing can keep us from that.
When I'm thinking of the wisdom of the one that the Spirit taught you that one time when you asked, it's not just this death that happens at the end of this journey of life with this one body, but that we're participating in that same river all the time, and we are in the midst of death just as we're in the midst of life all the time.
I find that that whole webinar was on grief and loss, which is a little bit of a hard subject for us since Christy is very frail right now, but very much here, thankfully. But it just speaks to that listening that we were discussing before, and then what becomes available to us when we move through the fear back into the love. We can access that connection.
Yeah. I think fear too is a symptom of feeling very separate and alone. And it's an illusion that we're separate and alone. There's so much trying to connect it all the time. I don't know why we have to forget and then remember and forget and remember.
Our human nature. So what do you do, Kim, when I guess you were able to pause and consider the light and being in the place of humility and I'm sorry. Do you have specific strategies that you recommend to people to move back into love?
Yeah. Just take time to lay in the middle of the yard, scream, wail, whatever it takes to get it out. Dance around, play some crazy music that you loved when you were a little kid, or maybe when you turned 16 and you drive like a crazy person. I don't think anyone should drive at 16. But anyways, I know how I drove at 16. And it was all the windows down, up and down the biggest swoopy hills so I could get that feeling in the bottom of my stomach like a roller coaster with the best music playing, like whatever you need to do to just get it out. It's just stuck. It's stuckness. It's holding it, and it just needs to move along, and it's just, I don't know. It just depends on the day. Like if the sun's shining and bright, lay in the sun, let it melt it all off of you. Like there's no reason to be to hold that stuff in. It just hurts you, you know. I don't know. There's times when I just have to go for a long walk and not really know where I'm going and just go. You know, there's time talking to my 15-year-old. It's so hard for her, you know, with so little experiences, but such huge emotions and stress. And so we'll just try to go for a walk and try to turn the brain off a little bit, because that's the problem, is when the brain is trying to analyze everything. There's no analyzing. It's just feeling with the heart, you know, like that was one of the most intriguing things to me. Was the first time I went to a group experience with Christy, and she said, now take your head off and leave it at the door. I was just like, oh, that's a great way to say it. But yeah, you can't, just kind of gotta let it go, be curious, and roll with it, you know, and notice the holding, you know, notice the stuckness. Try to just be in that playful mode. That's the flow space. That's when we can listen.
So much of it is just getting out of our way and getting out of our ego. So just having that self-awareness enough to go, oh gosh, there I go again. It's almost like we need tattooed on our forehead, leave your head at the door, but it's you know, then it's more for other people than for ourselves.
Yeah, I know it's hard to move in. It's hard moving through with the heart, but that's really the key. You know, like the heart, the center of the soul.
Yeah.
We got to move from that space where it's rich and messy, but rich.
Yeah. And you're like, your truth is there, you know, your truth is there. Your truth is not in our truth is not in our head. That's where our craziness is, right?
That's where the loops can happen.
And you used a phrase earlier when we were talking before, Kim, that I really loved, the power of the pause. Do you want to say more about that?
Oh, the power of the pause. That's super powerful. Woo. Yeah. It's about when you don't know what to say, to just pause for a minute. So I started leading wedding ceremonies and officiating, and that was the one thing that Christy gave me that was so helpful. And it was this whole prayer about pause, like breathe and pause and smile and pause and drink it in. And I say that to every one of the couples that I marry, like, walk, take a step and pause. Lock this memory in, slow down, take a step, breathe deep and pause, you know, like savor in the moment, because it's so fleeting. But there's so many times in circle where I'll be leading a circle and I'll just wait. And then people start to open up and share their truth. And that's where the magic is. And when I was first starting, I would rush in too quickly and talk and think, oh no, it's quiet. That's not good. Nobody's saying anything. But that's when it's good to pause even longer.
Yeah.
And open it up.
Yeah. Beautiful. So when we move out of fear and listen, we can access the divinity and the wisdom and the love, and we can open ourselves up to loving ourselves more as well. So shall we go to the third clip about that, loving ourselves?
Sure.
Okay, again, this is from the Engaging Spirituality webinar. That was in 2021.
So when I was in the hospital, I had breast cancer and I had heart disease. And so I was in this machine that looks at your bones and stuff. I don't know the name of it.
MRI.
And I had these big, huge metal lightning bolts sticking out of my chest. And I mean, this is in vision. And I said to Spirit, well, actually, I had gone into that book, said Arthur, and I was with the ferryman on the river.
Yeah.
And I said, look at this. What's this? And the ferryman said, oh, gosh. I said, look at these things. I said, these are the diseases I have. And they were beautiful. I mean, these things are painted and glowing and beautiful and powerful. And the ferryman said, oh, no, those are not diseases. I said, no, they are. They're diseases. It's heart disease and cancer. And the ferryman said, no, you've got that wrong. The ferryman said, those are not diseases. Those are symptoms of the illness of humanity.
Nice.
And I said, what is the illness? And it said, beloved, you all don't love yourselves enough. Oh. And he started naming diseases. And I thought, oh my God, if I realize this is a symptom, I need to be allowing myself to love me more. And I do now love me more. And somebody said at the end of that year, 2016, they said, that was a terrible year for you. I said, oh my God, are you kidding? That's the best year of my life. Because I learned to love me. I learned it through challenge of almost leaving. To say, gosh, I sure love me. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stick around. Look, somebody said to me one time, don't you want to live to be 150? I went, absolutely not. I don't want to, I don't want any of that stuff.
So Christy, this is bringing me back to the question I'd been formulating, and it was about that listen and about listening and being curious and related to our purpose of learning. And so I suspect that the lesson that all of us must learn has to do with love. And do you think it has to do for each of us about loving ourselves? Is that the lesson we have to learn over and over again, and there's just variations on that, or is it broader than that?
Well,
or is it not about love? I guess.
I think we did come back to learn that, but we are human too. We came back to make boo-boos, to run into walls and to judge and hate and be fearful. So those are part of the experience too. Think about this: a guy who's robbing a golden pantry and has his gun to the head of the owner, the guy behind the counter. What is he going to do with that money that he's getting from the robbery? He's probably going to maybe do drugs or buy something he thinks he needs, which is a deformed kind of love.
Right, a twisted.
So it really is love, but it's a deformed kind of love.
Yeah.
So I think that as humans, we come back sort of being poured constantly through a colander and looking at the pieces in the colander going, whoa, look at that. I don't think we squirt into this world staying in love with ourselves. I think when we do come in, we are in love with ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think we forget.
So we move into fear. We can have symptoms where we are not loving ourselves enough. And when we pause and we listen and reconnect, then we can be one with our divinity again.
Yeah.
Leave your head at the door.
Yeah. Leave your head at the door. Lead with the heart. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's just beautiful. All the times that so recently I've been dealing with my mom who's been diagnosed with dementia. And when I witnessed the first really scary moment of realizing she wasn't aware and that there was really something wrong, it was a big deal. I got incredibly panicked and had this intense sense of urgency of how I thought it was so hard. It was so terrifying because it's like definitely dealing with my own mortality to see that my mom is not the strong, badass, like fiercely independent woman and is all of a sudden acting like this meek, lost. It was really scary. And so I got really concerned and had all these ideas of what she should be doing and what needed to be done and how to handle this and how to do this, and had this intense sense of urgency because I didn't know what kind of time window we had. But over time, she kindly corrected me and reminded me this was her path and her journey, and she was going to do it her way.
Wow.
And I could do it my way when it was my turn. And she let me know in no uncertain terms that I was overstepping and I was intruding on her territory. And it was this play back and forth, you know, because sometimes I would be like, okay, this is my mom that think I'm seeing, you know, and then, okay, no, this is my mom who's more like an 8-year-old. And now she's like a really sassy 16-year-old. And now she's like, you know, but consistently she would come back to that same place of letting me know I needed to back off. This was her territory. And she kind of put me in my place. And then I realized what was causing me to act out of this place of urgency and this sense of, oh my God, I've got to fix this. If I don't do this. It was me focusing on a very fear-based outcome. I was very afraid of her being in her home and having no one to protect her, and, you know, and all of these things. And so then I shifted my energy away from that sense of urgency, because she'd push back to all my suggestions and things we could do and how to help, because I'm far away. And I just decided, all right, I have to let this go because it's really destroying me. I mean, so much, there's only so much I could do. You know, it's a 6-hour round trip drive. My kids are in school. I have my own business. I'm doing all these things. So I decided that I had to just kind of surrender it. And I just asked and offered up, hey, I really am going to just say prayers for my mom's own little earth angel to appear. Someone who's a friend, where she will take that guidance, because she wasn't taking it from me. You know, someone who could nudge her, someone who could help her to navigate. And I just had to surrender it and just leave it up, throw it up there. And then, like, within a month, not even a month, I happened to call and my mom was like, oh, one of my good friends from work is here. I was like, great, can I talk to her? And she has been my mom's personal earth angel and has stepped in a way that I, her daughter, would not have ever been allowed to step in. And she's helping in a way that's just beautiful. And I had to just, I feel like for that to open up, I had to completely surrender that fear. Like, okay, what's the worst that would happen? Well, it could get kind of bad. You know, she was still, she was being stubborn a little bit about the car situation too. And so it's just like, what's the worst thing that can happen? She could get in a wreck and lose her house, hurt someone. Okay. Again, you know, like, I have to surrender this and just say prayers to that and talk to her husband and try to nudge him. It was so hard, but he did hide the keys. So that was great. But it was just like, the minute I surrendered, there became an opening, and in stepped the right person. And I, of course, just, it's not a coincidence. I felt the push to call at the right time, got her number, and now we communicate all the time. And I have someone boots on the ground to help. It's so perfect.
Such a great story, and such a lived example of, because you know, when we start to talk about spiritual practice as an ongoing lived experience, like that's great in theory, but these things pull us out of it. And this fear, and then noticing the fear and pausing and being curious and listening and releasing and allowing what needs to come in, whether it be wisdom or insight or learning or just being present, and also allowing ourselves to heal, like, because we're not creating stress related illnesses or whatever, or problems, additional problems in our life with our relationship, like with your mom, then the healing and the flow can return. And so that was and we can also tap into our own divinity, using these challenges as lessons, reminders, deepening our practices, etc.
Yeah, it was really it's really challenging, and I realized that, like, I can apply this in so many avenues in my professional life, in my work life, but
Everything.
the biggest challenge is always going to be family. Like, being able to, like, connect with my sister in a way that cleared out these old patterns and roles we would get in, and instead staying super present and finding the game of it, like turning it into a fun, like, really, do you want to say it like that? Like learning to shift and not get back into our patterns of, like, disconnect and disharmony. I feel like this last year and a half has offered me so many opportunities to heal that stuff and level it up, but it's always the family ones. Like, so many people talk about, like, just not talking to their mom and dad. They're just not going to do it. Like, it's terrible. It's this, that, whatever. And, like, that's okay for a minute until you can heal whatever challenge, whatever disconnect in the relationship there is. But then, it's like, I feel like there's this aspect of, like, moving into that space from a place of play, and just don't engage in that disharmony. Just don't engage in the fighting. And, when being able to employ that with my mom and her husband was really helpful. And then I was able to do that with my sister, and, like, that's the Achilles heel of all of us. Like, if you feel like you've mastered life and you've got, like, your professional life and your family, your mom, dad, and your, like, siblings is the ultimate test.
They're our greatest teachers. Well, fantastic,
Absolutely.
Kim, and thank you for your wisdom and insight. I personally just feel so incredibly blessed to have two amazing teachers, different areas that have been so impactful for me. So I'm just wondering if this is a good time to switch over to Q&A. I'm curious whether anybody who's here listening has any questions or comments. Tina, do you want to?
Yeah, definitely.
Where
Well,
are you?
the first thing, I think you saw it earlier, but right when we were getting started, Carlton had put in the chat, I've been to a few of these. I'm always curious what constitutes energy. So I don't know
That's
if
for you,
either of
Kim.
you- yeah, if Kim,
Such a
you have
broad
something you wanna
question.
add to that,
So-
or Carlton, if you wanna ask something more specific. And then whoever else has questions, please do feel free to throw them in the chat, or just raise your virtual hand and come off mute to engage with our speakers.
There's so many energies. So emotions are energy, right? And as humans, we are incredibly emotional beings. That's our superpower. It's also the Achilles heel, right? Like, I couldn't get through that feeling of urgency and angst, like watching my mom and feeling like she was a irresponsible teenager, not dealing with her illness, whatever. But, like, so that's energy. We have life force energy that animates us. There's energy in everything. Even stuff that seems inanimate has energy to it. Energy is everything that is this universe. Everything's an energy exchange. The interactions are so important. So from an energy work perspective, what I'm working on is there's energy pathways where life energy moves through different energy meridians in the physical body to nourish. And there's also energy pathways outside of the body in the auric field. You can call it the biofield, the auric field, the energy field, the aura, like whatever you want to call it, the electromagnetic field. So you can access and learn to sense energy. And it's just different, it's densities, it's different thicknesses of energy and holding. It represents a holding pattern. Emotions are energy and emotions are to stay in motion. So we want our emotions to move along and out of our body, but we're taught culturally by our parents and unfortunately now social media that certain emotions are bad. Certain emotions are good, but all that is just a culturally created category system, and all emotions are energy. And they have to move. They're an electromagnetic event. And if they get stuck in the body, we create this weird charge that just holds things and it creates stuckness. And then over time, it'll manifest as a physical illness. So what we do with energy work is we learn how to either use palms, use sound to identify where those stuck areas are and start to loosen it up, stir it up, and to get it to move out. And you want to move it out and you want to release it into the earth. So the charge of the earth is different than the charge of a human, and the human energy, the stress energy, is very grounding to the earth. It helps to stabilize her electromagnetic field, which is moving quickly, and the poles are moving. But we then in exchange draw up a different charge of energy that's very calming and grounding. And most of inflammation is because we're not releasing that electric charge. We're holding it on. We shouldn't be separated. There should be a current and a flow and a release into the earth. And so the foundation of my practice is to teach people to sense the bottom of their flow system once we're realigned and to tune into that. And I do that with sound. I'll use sound to get their flow back. I'll use palm healing, energy, voice, chanting and toning. And I can help identify where the holding is and get it to soften, and usually through breath work and awareness and sometimes tapping and energy combing, get that stuff to move out so they can sense what flow feels like. And like we said, everybody is born in love with life and themselves. And then we learn how to judge ourselves. We learn how to not like ourselves, which is really our emotions. We start hating emotions, like interpreting it as painful when it's really just comfortable and uncomfortable. And we have to learn how to breathe through discomfort and birth our emotion babies that get stuck and let them go, right? So it's like really that practice of recognizing that emotions are really powerful energy, but they've got to stay moving. They've got to stay moving. And that keeps our whole body flowing and moving. And that's really the biggest, most important part. And sometimes you have to get them moving through yelling. Sometimes you have to scream them out. Sometimes you have to tap to get it out, comb it out. I mean, there's just so many different ways, but there's so many ways to access energy. Voice is huge. Your voice is your own best healer. Like just chanting and toning with the intention of your voice moving through all the way down to your toes is so powerful, and from the front and out the back and radiating around. But yeah, that's energy. That's like the movement of everything. Everything has a vibrational frequency, and that's quantum physics. And our goal is to stay in motion, because stuck is stagnant, which over time leads to loss of flow, which leads to a diminishing of life force, which leads to slowly over time death. Breath is life, movement is life, and flow of energy is life. So we just want to be maximizing all of these things.
Yeah, thanks for those shares. And I think Carlton has hopped off since, but I'm enjoying this kind of contemplating on energies. And the thing that's coming up for me, especially, in the larger context of your shares and being able to watch the clips of Christy, for me, when I'm thinking about my spiritual practice, there really is sometimes a beauty in not knowing and not needing to define things. So something that, came to me as a challenge for all of us is, what questions or what definitions are we looking for that maybe is actually ego stopping us from just engaging with what is there, like, and thinking about energies, like how are we willing to engage with something that's not fully known to us, in order to broaden our own horizons. And you mentioned so many times our connection with ourselves, with the earth, with each other, just like these beautiful moving things. And your last mention about not being still and stagnant, like, yeah, I love that. The energy is just a constant motion for me as well.
Yeah. It's so powerful. It's so fun too.
Yeah.
Like, I've been on like this quest ever since I learned Reiki 20 years ago to describe it. Like, how do I describe this stuff that I'm sensing and feeling and I've sensed for my whole life? And I just didn't know what it was, because I remember I was like 4 years old, like being like I see my fingers stop here, but I feel that I end right here. What is this? What's this whole part of me? And just like, I remember just being really curious about that. Like, why do I see that I end here, but I feel that I end here? Like, so it's just that whole thing. It's more about experiential. And yeah, there's so many layers to the aura. There's so many layers to energy, and so many different practices have different ways of describing it. And now I just say all the layers.
Yeah.
I'm never going to know, and you're never going to know, and nobody's going to have the right answer. It's just allow that healing energy to move through all of your layers.
Yeah.
When you breathe in, anchor that energy into the bottom of your hips, into your center point, and allow all of your layers to come back to you, and breathe in and welcome all your energy back home.
Yeah.
That's all you can do, because who knows? We're never gonna know.
Well, and I think what's really interesting is because, I don't think I had heard the word aura till about 5 years, 5 or 10 years ago. And here I am now, a Reiki practitioner. I'm about to get my level 3 with Kim this weekend, but like, I so feel energy, like it's such a palpable thing. It almost feels more real than, what we would call real life. And so, I mean, I just have to believe that most, if not all of us, can feel energy, move energy, do energy work like pretty much anybody can. It's just, a learned skill, and, a belief that you can.
Yeah, it's being curious. Like, what is this? What am I sensing? Like, I think so many people sense it, but don't know what it is. They don't have words to describe it. And that's okay too.
And we can all change our energy with our emotions too, right? Like, you don't even have to be an energy worker per se, but like, if your perception, if a belief causes you to perceive something a certain way, you're going to have an emotional reaction. And people are like, well, I can't change how I feel. It's like, well, but you can change your perspective about something, your belief about something, and then change how you feel. So we can be energy workers for ourselves all the time, and transform what our experience is and what we can access.
Yeah, find that silver lining, flip the script, change the story. You're always writing your own story. So don't let your story keep you in a space of being in a victimhood space. You got to rewrite that story and re-understand it and see where the challenge was and what the blessing is and what the wisdom. And that's the beauty, man. That's how I moved through my family stuff, was just like, you know what? I'm not going to have the story that my stepdad is really angry and mean to my mom. I'm going to say that I'm really grateful that he's, helping in the best way he can. And he's making her dinner, and he's just not really kind after about 3 hours of the same question. That's okay. Like, I had to change the story. I literally had to change the story. And the minute I did, so much lightened and so many things changed and helpers appeared, and wow.
So when I came out of prisoner view, I noticed that Christy is here. So I know that she probably doesn't want to unmute or unvideo, but I just wanted to just say a big hello and send lots of love to the woman who's inspired so many of us. So
Yeah.
love you, Christy.
I'll echo that. And Christy, I'm grateful to have heard your voice and seen your face through the clips. I jotted so many notes, and Kim, you were just sharing several times the word curious and curiosity. And a couple different times in the clips, I heard Christy say, whenever you're afraid, choose curiosity.
Most important. Yeah, that's Christy. Thank you. That is the lesson that helped me with all these really intense family challenges. Like, all right, so how can I move through this differently? Because in direct opposition and conflict is not working. Like, I can't, there's no way to move forward,
Yeah.
So.
Even if you win that one, you lose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was no winning.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah.
It was about learning to find some common ground, some gratitude, and then finding that harmony point. And I'm really grateful for that lesson. And it was and Christy really helped me through much of that journey, because it was the last year and a half with that. And she would just be like, yeah, the curiosity piece, and like, yeah, it was so helpful. She'd be like, when you get older, you slow down. Your energy is so different. You have so much more energy and you want it to be done like this. And she's like, we slow down when you get into 70, 75. She's like, we just slow down. And it would be so helpful for her to remind me. I can't believe my mom hasn't handled this. It's okay. We
I
just
thought we'd slow down at 58 personally, but okay.
I like that expression. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it comes from Dr. Phil, but I totally agree with it.
It's one of the good things he said. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you focus on really does expand. It's hard to let go of conflict with family, but man, it was helpful when I finally did. Like, what can I do?
What do you do about secondhand conflict, like when your younger brother's having a conflict with my own daughter, in this case?
Oh, wow. That's really intense. Yeah. So he's fighting with her.
Both of them. It's the fighting is mutual, but
They're both fighting with each other. Oh, I would just say, just really encourage them both to like find some common ground. It's just not worth it. It's just not. There's some common ground. There's somewhere they agree. It'd be really cool for them to lean into that agreement. So for your sake.
yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they're both on the exact opposite side of the country in Seattle, so I don't have to get personally intervening very often. But
Yeah.
but it would be nice to go to a party where my grandkids and my brother could be at the same party.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had to really heal. So like, I had to really work on not taking anything personally and just seeing that my other person was just in pain. And there was nothing I could do to make them not be mean. So I just had to accept that they were hurting, and I had to learn to not react to that and their stuff, their whatever it was. So someone somewhere, hopefully you can just send up the prayers that they will release some of their hurts a little bit, so that there can be peaceful times where you get to enjoy all of them. Like, oh, that's so hard. I get it.
Well, someday maybe they'll realize that the other person is their teacher, and that will change everything.
Yeah. That's the truth, right? Christy's
always saying that, like, she's like the most, I don't know, least powerful person on earth. Christy would, say that she's learned so much from, and, she's always, it's such a beautiful quality. Christy is just a student to the whole world. And I think if everybody followed that example just a little bit, like, it could change everything.
Yeah. I would say just hold hope that they'll both simmer down when it has to do with the uncle and your daughter. Just hold hope that they simmer down and can allow for some commonality. You are the commonality. Right? It's like, oh, my wish, my biggest hope is one day you guys can simmer down and we can.
Well, and without getting involved in it, you could also say like, seeing you fight really hurts me. Like it's painful, makes me sad. That's probably all you can do. But maybe they'll hear that, you know, like it doesn't just affect them.
Right.
Okay, well, this has been an amazing discussion, and I am just really so grateful to you, Kim, and to Christy for showing up, first of all, being alive, second of all, and having the wherewithal to have had some video recordings so that we can savor her gentle and wise spirit. I wanted to take the last few minutes to just put in a plug for our next webinar, which will be on the first Wednesday of June, which is June 7th. And our speaker will be Judy Keating, who is here. She's still here? Yes, she is. She's still here. And we'll be talking about rediscovering your connection to the elemental forces of creation. And so Carlton can ask about what are elemental forces, and Judy will explain it. And we're very much looking forward to having you, Judy, join us next month in the presentation. And I hope the Athens crowd will come back for that and many more sessions. And just a final reminder, we really appreciate the consideration for you to make a love offering to help support this program. And the URL to donate is sanctuaryoferarth.org/donate. And thank you, Kim. Thank you, beloved Christy. Thank you, Tina, for emceeing. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you. My little dog was barking in 2021 and he still barks.
Well,
Something
thank
never
you so
changed.
much for hosting.
Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you so much
Good
for
night.
coming.